Your word is not merely sound vibrating through the atmosphere, but the very essence of divine creative force made manifest through your being. In the beginning was the Word, and that same creative principle that spoke worlds into existence flows through you at this very moment. Every syllable that passes your lips carries within it the identical power that commanded light to pierce the darkness and substance to emerge from the void. This is not spiritual poetry or mystical metaphor. This is the fundamental law upon which all creation operates, and you are its conscious agent in your individual world. Most souls walk through life unconscious of this tremendous power, scattering words like seeds without thought to what harvest they are sowing. They speak carelessly of lack and wonder why abundance eludes them. They voice their fears and then marvel when those very fears appear in their experience. They complain about their circumstances while simultaneously commanding more of the same through their unconscious declarations. This misuse of the creative word keeps humanity bound in endless cycles of limitation, struggle, and disappointment, never recognizing that they themselves are the architects of their difficulties. But when you awaken to the true nature of your spoken word, everything in your life transforms. Each sentence becomes a sacred act of creation. Every declaration becomes a direct command to the universe, which stands ever ready to fulfill your spoken decree. The invisible realm, pregnant with infinite possibilities, waits in perfect obedience for your authoritative word. There are no exceptions to this law. It operates with mathematical precision, whether you understand it or not, whether you believe it or not, whether you use it consciously or unconsciously. The power inherent in your words stems from your divine heritage. You are made in the image and likeness of the Creator, and therefore you possess the same creative faculties. When the divine spoke, "Let there be light," light appeared instantly, not because of the words themselves, but because of the absolute authority and unwavering faith behind those words. When you speak with that same recognition of your spiritual power, your words carry identical creative force. The universe responds not to your secret thoughts or hidden desires, but to the words you speak with feeling, conviction, and unwavering faith. Consider the profound mechanics of this spiritual law. Your spoken word works through the principle of vibration, for everything in creation vibrates at specific frequencies. Words of abundance carry the vibrational signature of prosperity, magnetizing abundant conditions into your experience. Words of health vibrate at the frequency of perfect well-being, drawing healing and vitality. Words of harmony create the atmosphere for peaceful relationships and joyful circumstances. The universe, being perfectly responsive to vibrational alignment, has no choice but to deliver experiences that match the frequency of your spoken declarations. Here lies the crucial understanding that transforms ordinary people into masters of their destiny. The universe takes you at your word literally. What you say with emotion and belief becomes your reality, regardless of what you may think privately. You may harbor abundant thoughts all day long, but if your spoken words contradict those thoughts, your words will outpicture in your experience every time. This is why the careless use of speech creates such havoc in people's lives, and why the conscious, deliberate use of the spoken word creates such miraculous transformations. Let me illustrate with living examples how this law operates in practical affairs. A merchant once came to me lamenting, "Business is terrible. Nobody has money. The economy is dead." Each morning she pronounced funeral rites over her enterprise and then wondered why customers avoided her establishment like a plague house. I taught her to speak differently. Divine prosperity flows through my business. Joyful money for joyous use comes to me in avalanches of abundance. The right customers come in right numbers at the right time. She blessed her cash register each morning, saying, "You are always filled and refilled with happy money." Within days, she felt the shift in atmosphere. Within weeks, her ledger testified to the law. It was not the economy that changed, but her spoken decree that transformed her experience of the economy. A young man approached me with a mouthful of complaints about his career. There are no opportunities. Competition is fierce. I never get a break. He was unconsciously auditioning with his tongue for the role of failure, and the universe was giving him exactly the part he rehearsed daily. I taught him to declare, "My perfect self-expression now appears. The position that is mine by divine right is seeking me as eagerly as I am seeking it. We meet now under grace in perfect ways." He refused to rehearse rejection in conversation, and instead blessed his so-called competitors, recognizing that there is no competition in spirit. An unexpected opportunity materialized within the month, a role that seemed designed specifically for his unique talents. The employer later said, "Your name just kept coming up in our discussions. But we understand why." His spoken word, aligned with divine law, had created the magnetic attraction that drew his good to him. The creative power of your word is amplified exponentially when coupled with absolute faith. Faith is not mere positive thinking or hopeful wishing. It is the complete knowing that what you speak is already accomplished in the invisible realm and is now manifesting in the physical. When you speak from this level of spiritual certainty, you are not trying to create something new, but acknowledging what already exists in divine mind and commanding it to appear in form. This is the difference between begging and decreeing, between hoping and knowing, between human effort and divine demonstration. Your word becomes irresistibly powerful when you speak with spiritual authority, the quiet recognition that you and your decree are one with the divine law that cannot fail. This authority does not come from arrogance or human willfulness, but from the humble acknowledgement of your true identity as a spiritual being temporarily using a physical form. When you speak from that center of divine recognition, your word is clothed with substance, and the law rushes to fulfill it under grace in perfect ways. There are two essential crafts in the art of creative speech: denial and affirmation. Denial is your spiritual eraser, dissolving false appearances and withdrawing your energy from unwanted conditions. When you say, "I deny the appearance of lack in my life. Divine abundance is my true condition," you are canceling the power of the negative picture to continue manifesting. Affirmation is your spiritual key, unlocking the door to the treasure room of infinite supply. When you declare, "I am richly and abundantly supplied now and always," you open the channel for your good to flow. Make your speech a sacred practice. Begin each day by dedicating your mouth to truth. Every word I speak today creates beauty, harmony, and abundance. My speech is clean, creative, and powerful. Throughout the day, refuse to give voice to negative conditions, knowing that speaking them gives them power to persist. When tempted to recount tales of difficulty, choose instead to narrate the story of your inevitable good. Everything is always working out for me. Divine solutions appear instantly. My path is made straight and easy. Guard the gate of your mouth as you would guard precious treasure, for indeed you are guarding the very mechanism through which your treasure appears. Speak slowly enough to feel your words as living fire. Speak clearly enough to instruct the universe precisely. Speak with enough conviction to command obedience from the invisible forces that serve your word. If you catch yourself declaring lack or limitation, cancel it immediately. I erase that word. Only good goes forth from me, and only good returns to me multiplied. The law responds to the tone of authority more than the volume of voice. You need not shout to be heard by the universe. Indeed, the most powerful words are often spoken in quiet confidence. What matters is the inner conviction that your word is law in your individual world. When you speak with this recognition, mountains move without effort, obstacles dissolve without struggle, and your good appears with the inevitability of sunrise. Understand that your word works whether you outline the method or not. In fact, it works better when you refrain from limiting the infinite intelligence to your finite understanding of how things should happen. Say, "This or something better now manifests under grace," and you give the universe permission to exceed your highest expectations through channels you never could have imagined. Many delay their demonstrations by instructing the law in small ways, demanding that their good come through specific people or particular circumstances. Release such limitations and prepare to be amazed by the infinite creativity of divine intelligence. Train your tongue as you would train a valuable servant. In moments of challenge, speak to the situation with calm authority. Divine order now manifests here. Only good can come from this experience. When bills arrive, bless them as evidence that life trusts you with greater circulation. I rejoice in this opportunity to keep money flowing. All that I send out returns to me multiplied under grace. When delays appear, recognize them as divine protection from lesser good. Perfect timing governs my affairs. What is mine by right cannot be withheld. The spoken word, when aligned with spiritual law, creates what appears to be miraculous results because it operates from the realm where all things are possible. In that invisible dimension, there is no scarcity, no competition, no limitation of any kind. Your word becomes the bridge between that perfect realm and your physical experience. Each time you speak with faith and spiritual authority, you are literally pulling substance from the invisible into the visible, commanding form to appear where only potential existed before. Remember always that you are not a victim pleading for mercy, but a spiritual being exercising your divine prerogative to speak your world into the form you desire. Your word is your wand, your decree is your power, and your faith is the substance that gives your spoken command the authority to transform your entire world in an instant. The creative power of the spoken word is not a technique to be learned, but a birthright to be claimed, not a theory to be studied, but a law to be applied with the confidence of one who knows their divine heritage and speaks with the authority of infinite spirit itself. The moment you truly comprehend that abundance exists not as something distant to be acquired, but as your present spiritual reality waiting to be recognized, your entire consciousness undergoes an instantaneous and complete metamorphosis. This transformation is not a gradual evolution or a slow climb up the mountain of spiritual development. It is a pivot, a swift turning of the inner eye from shadows to light, from the question, "How will it come?" to the declaration, "It is here now, under grace, in perfect ways." Like flipping a switch that instantly floods a darkened room with brilliant illumination. One faith-filled recognition can immediately shift your entire being from the vibration of lack to the frequency of unlimited abundance. Your consciousness is not merely your collection of thoughts and beliefs. It is the very creative principle through which your entire world takes form. What you hold as true in the deepest chambers of your heart becomes the blueprint from which your external circumstances are constructed. Most souls walk through life believing that their conditions dictate their consciousness, that they must wait for external improvements before they can feel prosperous, healthy, or joyful. This represents humanity's greatest illusion, for the truth operates in precisely the opposite direction. Your consciousness creates your circumstances, not the other way around. The outer world serves as nothing more than a perfect mirror, reflecting back to you with mathematical precision the inner state of your being. The consciousness of lack operates like a dense fog that obscures the brilliant sun of your divine inheritance. This consciousness whispers its lies with such persistence that they begin to sound like absolute truth. There is not enough. You must compete with others. Resources are limited. Abundance belongs to the fortunate few, not to you. You must earn your good through struggle and sacrifice. These beady vor than other times people. Thoughts seem so natural, so logical, so apparently based in observable reality that billions of souls accept them without question. They construct their entire lives around these false premises, creating elaborate strategies to overcome scarcity that actually perpetuate and magnify it. They work harder while feeling less satisfied, worry more while attracting more to worry about, grasp tighter while watching their goods slip through their fingers like sand. But abundance consciousness operates from an entirely different foundation of spiritual truth. In this elevated awareness, you recognize with absolute certainty that you inhabit a universe of infinite supply where there is more than enough of every good thing for everyone. You understand that your prosperity is not dependent upon economic conditions, other people's decisions, your past performance, or any external circumstance whatsoever. You realize that abundance is not a reward for worthiness that must be earned through good behavior, but the natural state of divine creation expressing itself through your individual being. This consciousness knows with unwavering conviction that what belongs to you by spiritual law cannot be withheld, delayed, or given to another soul. Consider how this transformation manifests in the actual experience of a woman who lived for years imprisoned by the consciousness of financial limitation. She counted every penny with anxious precision, worried about every expense with consuming intensity, and created elaborate budgets designed to manage what she perceived as perpetual scarcity. Her consciousness of lack operated like a powerful magnet, attracting circumstances that confirmed her fearful beliefs. Unexpected bills arrived like unwelcome visitors. Payments were mysteriously delayed. Appliances broke down, requiring costly repairs at the most inconvenient moments. She worked longer hours for diminishing satisfaction, always feeling behind the curve and never quite secure, not because she lacked intelligence or capability, but because her consciousness of limitation was magnetizing experiences that perfectly matched her inner conviction of not enough. Then arrived the moment of instantaneous transformation. Through understanding the immutable laws of spiritual manifestation, she suddenly recognized that her struggles with money were not occurring because money was genuinely scarce, but because she had been unconsciously rejecting her abundant inheritance through her habitual beliefs and spoken words. In one illuminating instant, she perceived that the universe contained unlimited supply and that her role was not to create abundance through effort, but to accept it through recognition. Her consciousness shifted completely and immediately. Where once she perceived scarcity lurking behind every financial decision, she now recognized infinite provision flowing through every channel. Where once she felt separated from her good by insurmountable obstacles, she now knew herself as one with all abundance. Where once she worried about lack with exhausting intensity, she now rested in the unshakable certainty of divine supply. This shift in consciousness immediately transformed her entire experience with financial flow. She began noticing opportunities that had been present all along but invisible to her previous state of awareness. People began offering her work that paid significantly better than anything she had previously attracted. Unexpected money appeared from completely forgotten sources, old refunds, overlooked investments, gifts from surprising directions. Her expenses decreased naturally as things stopped breaking down and requiring replacement. Most remarkably, she found herself spontaneously making financial decisions that increased her prosperity without effort, strain, or complicated strategizing. The outer transformation followed the inner shift as naturally and inevitably as spring follows winter, demonstrating the immutable law that consciousness creates circumstances. The mechanics of this consciousness transformation operate through the fundamental principle that your external world serves as a perfect reflection of your internal convictions. When your consciousness remains rooted in the soil of lack, every circumstance seems to provide irrefutable evidence that resources are limited and difficult to obtain. When your consciousness shifts to the fertile ground of abundance, the identical world reveals itself as overflowing with opportunities, resources, and blessings waiting to be claimed. The world itself undergoes no change, your perception of it transforms completely, and therefore your experience of it must transform accordingly to maintain perfect alignment. The transformation frequently occurs through what initially appears to be a crisis, but reveals itself as a spiritual opportunity clothed in temporary difficulty. A man suddenly lost his position and initially fell into the familiar pit of despair, seeing only disaster and limitation stretching endlessly before him. But as circumstances forced him to rely upon something beyond his personal efforts and human connections, He began to understand that his security had never actually come from his job, but from the infinite intelligence that had created the job in the first place. His consciousness shifted from anxious dependence upon external conditions to peaceful reliance upon the inexhaustible spiritual source of all supply. This inner transformation preceded the appearance of not merely another position, but an entirely new career path that brought him greater fulfillment and prosperity than he had ever imagined possible. The transformation of consciousness also involves a complete reversal of your relationship with the concept of time. Lack consciousness operates from the belief that good things require time to develop, that you must wait patiently for circumstances to improve, that abundance represents a future possibility dependent upon current efforts and favorable conditions. But abundance consciousness recognizes that, in the spiritual realm, where your good originates, time does not exist. Everything you could ever need or desire exists right now in perfect, complete, finished form. The transformation allows you to step out of linear time, consciousness, and into the eternal now, where your abundance has been waiting throughout all eternity for your recognition and acceptance. This immediate shift creates what can only be described as an energetic alignment that magnetizes your good to you with irresistible force. The universe operates on the immutable principle of vibrational resonance, like attracts like with mathematical precision. When your consciousness vibrates at the frequency of lack, you become a powerful magnet for experiences of limitation, struggle, and disappointment. When your consciousness shifts instantly to the frequency of abundance, you become an equally powerful magnet for prosperity, opportunity, and joyful manifestation. This is not wishful thinking or positive psychology. This represents the practical application of spiritual law that operates with the same reliability as any physical law. The shift in consciousness also transforms your relationship with every other soul you encounter. Lack consciousness creates the devastating illusion of competition. If others possess abundance, there must be correspondingly less available for you. This consciousness breeds envy, resentment, and the exhausting need to guard resources carefully against potential threats. But abundance consciousness reveals the glorious truth that there exists no competition whatsoever in the spiritual realm. Another person's prosperity cannot diminish your own any more than one person's happiness reduces the happiness available to others. In fact, abundance consciousness recognizes that celebrating others' good fortune creates a powerful vibration that attracts similar blessings into your own experience through the law of sympathetic resonance. Many souls resist this transformation because it challenges their fundamental assumptions about how life operates. They have been conditioned through years of experience to believe that anything worthwhile requires struggle, sacrifice, and gradual development over extended periods. The idea that consciousness can shift instantly and completely seems too simple, too immediate, too wonderfully good to be true. They prefer the familiar struggle of lack consciousness to the unfamiliar ease of abundance consciousness. But those who possess the courage to release their attachment to limitation discover that the transformation is not only possible, but inevitable once they cease resisting the natural flow of their divine inheritance. The transformation affects every area of existence, not merely material prosperity. Health consciousness shifts from fearful vigilance against disease to joyful recognition of perfect well-being as your natural state. Relationship consciousness moves from needy dependency and emotional manipulation to appreciation and joyful sharing with others. Career consciousness transforms from anxious struggle for security to inspired expression of your divine gifts in loving service to the world. Every aspect of life becomes touched and transformed by this fundamental shift in awareness from limitation to limitlessness. To sustain this transformed consciousness requires consistent recognition and acceptance of your abundant nature. Each time the old consciousness of lack attempts to reassert its familiar dominion, you possess the opportunity to choose again. You can return to the well-worn patterns of worry, competition, and struggle, or you can rest peacefully in the truth of your unlimited spiritual inheritance. The choice remains perpetually available, and the transformation can occur as many times as necessary until abundance consciousness becomes your natural, permanent state of awareness. What renders this transformation so magnificently powerful is its complete immediacy. You need not wait for external conditions to change before you can experience abundance consciousness. You require no permission from others, no improvement in circumstances, no achievement of worthiness through good behavior or spiritual accomplishment. The transformation stands available right now, in this very moment, simply through your willingness to recognize and accept what has always been eternally true about your divine nature and unlimited inheritance. In that recognition, in that immediate shift of consciousness, you become the magnetic center for all the good that is yours by divine right, and the universe rushes to confirm your inner reality through your outer experience with the swiftness of answered prayer. The divine sentence achieves its miraculous transformative power through the profound spiritual act of casting your burden upon the Christ consciousness within, and completely releasing all human resistance that blocks the natural flow of your abundant good. This casting represents far more than a mental technique or positive thinking exercise. It constitutes a complete surrender of your personal will, limited understanding, and anxious efforts to the infinite wisdom and perfect power that resides eternally at the very center of your being. Most souls walk through life carrying burdens that were never meant to be borne by human shoulders, clutching their problems like precious possessions, believing that worry demonstrates care, and that constant struggle proves worthiness. But these burdens are not the actual circumstances themselves. They are your attachment to solving everything through human methods, your insistence on understanding every detail, your demand that solutions appear according to your limited outline of how life should unfold. The burden manifests as the weight of responsibility you assume for outcomes beyond your human control, the anxiety you carry about future possibilities, the resentment you harbor toward past experiences, and the fear you entertain about your worthiness to receive good. It appears as the mental gymnastics of trying to figure out exactly how your bills will be paid, precisely when your healing will manifest, specifically through whom your opportunities will arrive, and exactly what sequence of events must occur for your happiness to be secured. This burden grows heavier each day you carry it, creating a dense fog of worry that obscures your natural connection to infinite supply and blocks the clear channel through which your good seeks to flow. Understanding the Christ consciousness within requires recognizing this indwelling presence not as an external religious figure, but as the spark of divinity, the infinite intelligence, the perfect wisdom that exists at your spiritual core and maintains constant unity with universal mind. This Christ within possesses unlimited knowledge of every solution, infinite power to arrange all circumstances, and perfect love that seeks only your highest good. When you cast your burden upon this divine intelligence, you acknowledge that your human mind, brilliant though it may be in material affairs, cannot solve spiritual problems or create lasting abundance. You recognize that only this inner wisdom possesses the capability to orchestrate the perfect sequence of events, move the right people into position, open the precise doors of opportunity, and manifest your good through channels your limited understanding could never conceive. The actual process of casting involves a definite, conscious act of release performed with spiritual authority and complete conviction. Begin by clearly identifying what you are carrying. I recognize that I have been trying to solve this situation through human effort and worry. I acknowledge that my anxiety and struggle are blocking my good. Then, make the definitive transfer. I now cast this burden of specific situation upon the Christ within. I release all worry, all outlining, all human reasoning about this matter. Divine intelligence now takes complete charge and works out every detail under grace in perfect ways. Feel the actual weight lifting from your consciousness as you speak these words with genuine surrender, not as a desperate plea, but as a royal decree, recognizing your divine inheritance and spiritual authority. Resistance operates as the spiritual dam that blocks your river of abundance, manifesting in forms so subtle that most souls never recognize them as obstacles to their demonstrations. The most insidious form appears as doubt, that whisper of uncertainty that follows every prayer, that question mark that punctuates every affirmation, that secret fear that perhaps this time the law will not work for you. Doubt creates vibrational static that interferes with clear reception of divine guidance and swift manifestation of your desires. When you cast a burden and immediately follow with doubt, wondering if you are worthy enough, if your problem is too large, if the method will really work, you effectively retrieve the burden you just released, telling the universe that your faith has conditions and limitations. Outlining represents another pervasive form of resistance, manifesting as your insistence on dictating to infinite intelligence exactly how, when, where, and through whom your good should appear. You might declare your need for financial supply while secretly demanding it arrive through your current job by next Tuesday in the amount you have calculated as sufficient. This spiritual micromanagement severely limits the unlimited creativity of divine intelligence, which has access to countless channels and perfect timing that your finite mind cannot possibly envision. Many demonstrations are delayed or blocked entirely because individuals cling to their small blueprints rather than trusting the expansive design of infinite wisdom. When you outline, you essentially announce to the universe, "I know better than unlimited intelligence how to arrange my good." Human reasoning constitutes perhaps the most socially acceptable form of resistance, appearing as logical analysis, practical planning, and realistic assessment of circumstances. While the analytical mind serves magnificently in material affairs, it becomes utterly inadequate and actually detrimental when applied to spiritual problems. Human reasoning operates from past experiences, current appearances, and perceived limitations, always explaining why something cannot happen, why resources are insufficient, why desires are impossible given present conditions. It represents the attempt to fit infinite possibilities into finite understanding, to measure boundless supply with the small ruler of personal experience. When you try to solve spiritual problems with human logic, you create tremendous struggle because the mind cannot grasp how divine intelligence operates outside the constraints of time, space, and apparent limitation. The release of resistance creates immediate relief because it removes the crushing burden of trying to manage infinite affairs with finite understanding. Consider the profound example of a woman who approached me consumed with financial anxiety, her mind filled with elaborate calculations of insufficient funds and detailed analyses of economic conditions. She had charts, budgets, and contingency plans, but all this mental activity was actually feeding the very scarcity she sought to overcome. Her constant analysis represented resistance to the simple truth that divine intelligence could solve her supply challenges more effectively than her human reasoning. When she learned to cast the burden of her finances upon the Christ within, declaring, "Divine intelligence now manages my supply perfectly. I release all anxiety and trust infinite wisdom to provide abundantly under grace," she stopped fighting the current and began flowing with the river of limitless provision. Within days, opportunities appeared that her previous planning had never considered. A forgotten investment matured, a client paid an overdue account, a new income source materialized through an unexpected connection. Forgiveness operates as a master key in releasing resistance, for unforgiveness creates knots in the cords of supply that prevent free circulation of your good. When you harbor resentment toward any person or situation, you tie your vital energy to past grievances and block the flow of present blessings. To forgive does not excuse harmful actions, but unbinds your soul from their limiting influence. A businessman once struggled with delayed payments from a client who had treated him unfairly. His anger and sense of injustice were actually magnetizing more experiences of unfair treatment and financial delay. When he declared, "I freely forgive this person and bless them with divine love. I release all resentment and call this debt paid under grace." The emotional charge dissolved, and within the week the payment arrived along with an apology and additional business. Forgiveness cleared the channel for abundant flow by removing the resistance of held grievances. Fear of circulation represents another subtle form of resistance that keeps many souls in perpetual limitation despite their spiritual knowledge. Like blood in the body, money and all forms of good must move freely to maintain health and vitality. When fear makes you grasp and hoard, you create stagnation that blocks new supply from entering your experience. A woman once sat upon a modest savings account like a protective hen, refusing even necessary expenditures while declaring her faith in abundance. Her money behaved according to her consciousness. It remained static and gradually diminished through inflation and missed opportunities. When she began speaking differently, "I joyfully circulate money under grace, knowing my supply is instantly replenished. I love to see money move with happiness, returning to me multiplied." Her experience transformed. She paid bills with gratitude, made purchases with joy, and gave generously from her heart. Each act of faithful circulation was met with increased flow, demonstrating that what you release under grace cannot be lost but returns with abundant increase. In matters of health, casting the burden involves releasing resistance from both mind and body, recognizing that physical symptoms often reflect mental and emotional tensions. The body listens constantly to the mind's tone. Anxiety creates physical tension. Resentment manifests as inflammation. Fear expresses as fatigue and weakness. When health challenges appear, many souls resist them with anxious attention, inadvertently magnifying the very conditions they seek to dissolve. Instead, speak directly to the life intelligence within. "I cast the burden of this appearance upon the Christ within. Divine, life now floods every cell of my being with perfect health and vitality. I relax completely and receive my healing under grace." A musician plagued by performance anxiety practiced this method before concerts, withdrawing to a quiet space to cast his burden of stage fright upon the divine intelligence within. He blessed his audience as friends and the stage as sacred ground, releasing all need to impress and allowing his natural talent to flow. The trembling left his hands, the tightness dissolved from his chest, and a new ease entered his artistry as he stopped performing from fear and began expressing from love. Legal matters often present intense temptation to resist, as the worldly approach emphasizes combat and adversarial positioning. Yet there exists a higher defense that protects without attacking, that wins without creating losers. When facing legal challenges, declare, "I cast the burden of this situation upon the Christ within." Divine justice now prevails, and divine order is established. I bless all involved and trust perfect resolution under grace. A man once faced an unjust claim that threatened his financial security. Initially, he burned with righteous indignation and prepared elaborate defenses, but his anger was actually tying him to his adversary and prolonging the conflict. When he chose release over resistance, blessing his opponent and trusting divine justice, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. Meetings became more cordial, unreasonable demands were withdrawn, and the matter settled on terms far more favorable than anyone had predicted. Non-resistance had allowed divine order to establish itself naturally, without force or struggle. Your spoken word serves as the primary vehicle for both casting burdens and maintaining the released state. Words saturated with fear thicken resistance, while words impregnated with faith dissolve all obstacles to your good. Begin each morning before the world speaks to you by speaking to your world. "Today I start old for the world." Cast every burden upon the Christ within. I walk free, think free, give free, and receive free. Divine love goes before me, making easy and successful my way. Throughout the day, when old habits of mental grasping attempt to reassert themselves, immediately return to your decree of release. I refuse to carry this burden. Divine intelligence handles this perfectly. I go free to receive my good now. Speak with calm authority rather than desperate pleading, for the universe responds not to panic but to principle, not to begging but to believing. Silence becomes a powerful ally in maintaining release, for there exists tremendous power in refusing to spread worry through idle conversation. Many souls keep their problems alive by discussing them lovingly with anyone willing to listen, embroidering the story with each telling, and inadvertently commanding more of the same through their unconscious rehearsal of limitation. Instead, withdraw the story and enter the secret place of inner stillness, where the Christ within whispers the next right step. In that sacred quiet, inspired ideas arise like birds from a hedgerow, simple, natural, and unmistakably right. The guidance might be a call to make, a letter to write, a person to contact, or a place to visit at a specific time. This represents not the nervous motion of resistance, but the graceful movement of divine direction. Sleep becomes a workshop of grace when you cast all burdens before closing your eyes each night. Lay every concern upon the altar of divine intelligence. I place this matter completely in your hands. While I sleep, you perfect everything that concerns me. Many souls awaken to find problems mysteriously solved, emails waiting with perfect timing, reconciliations taking shape, or clear direction for the day ahead. The subconscious mind, freed from the burden of worry, becomes receptive to divine solutions that appear effortlessly during the night hours. Morning anxiety often signals unclaimed. Burdens from the previous day claim them only to release them immediately, never cradling difficulties through the precious hours of rest. Blessing what you fear represents a tender practice that melts resistance with remarkable speed. If a bill creates anxiety, place your hand upon it and bless it for services received, then bless the money already on its way to meet it joyfully. If a person troubles your peace, bless the divine self within them and affirm that only harmonious action can occur between you. If a situation makes you uncomfortable, bless the ground you walk upon and declare that divine order fills every space you enter. Blessing transforms atmospheric conditions because it represents a form of casting, releasing the burden of judgment, fear, and control to the higher law of love that makes all things new under grace in perfect ways. The practice of conscious giving serves as a powerful antidote to the resistance of grasping and hoarding. Give something meaningful. Each day, a sincere compliment, helpful assistance, a generous tip, a prayer of blessing without strain, calculation, or expectation of return. Give as recognition that you are one with infinite storehouse and that circulation increases rather than decreases your supply. The fearful consciousness asks, if I give this, will there be enough left for me? The abundant consciousness declares, because I give freely, there is always more than enough for everyone. This declaration unties the knots at the mouth of your cornucopia, allowing supply to breathe and flow with renewed vitality. Remember that casting the burden represents not a single dramatic event, but a way of walking through life with spiritual grace and divine authority. Your mind will attempt to retrieve released burdens through force of habit, but each time you choose to cast rather than carry, the groove of grace deepens and widens. The channel of supply becomes clearer, the current of good flows more swiftly, and you develop skill at recognizing the first hint of mental tension and releasing it before it can take root and grow. Where you once encountered delay, you discover divine timing. Where you once faced opposition, you find right placement. Where you once experienced anxiety, you rest in quiet certainty that your good hastens to you now, under grace in perfect ways, freed from all human interference and resistance to flow abundantly into your grateful, receptive consciousness. There exists within the fabric of creation an immutable spiritual law that operates with the same precision and reliability as any physical law, yet surpasses them all in its magnificent scope and beneficent purpose. This is the law of divine right and perfect supply, which declares with absolute authority that everything necessary for your complete fulfillment, abundant prosperity, perfect health, and joyful self-expression already belongs to you by divine inheritance. This law recognizes no exceptions, acknowledges no favorites, and operates independently of human opinions about worthiness, past performance, or external circumstances. What is yours by divine right exists as a spiritual fact that cannot be altered by appearances, delayed indefinitely by obstacles, or transferred to another soul through competition or manipulation. Your divine right represents far more than mere entitlement or wishful thinking. It constitutes the fundamental recognition of your true spiritual identity as an individualized expression of infinite intelligence. Just as each ray of sunlight contains the complete essence and power of the sun while maintaining its unique trajectory and purpose, you embody the full creative potential and unlimited supply of the universal source while expressing it through your distinctive personality and circumstances. This divine inheritance was not earned through good behavior, granted as a reward for spiritual achievement, or bestowed upon you by external authority. It exists as the natural consequence of your spiritual nature, as inherent to your being as breath is to your body or light is to the sun. Most souls experience struggle and limitation not because divine supply is actually withheld, but because they have accepted the devastating illusion of separation from their source. This separation consciousness creates the exhausting experience of trying to extract abundance from an apparently hostile universe through personal effort, competitive struggle, or fortunate circumstances. They believe themselves to be isolated beings, competing for limited resources in a world of scarcity, never recognizing that they remain eternally connected to infinite supply through their spiritual nature. The universe does not withhold your good, you withhold it from yourself, through ignorance of your divine inheritance and acceptance of limitation as reality rather than temporary appearance. Understanding this law requires recognizing that there exists absolutely no competition in the realm of spirit. This truth, when fully grasped, dissolves lifetimes of anxiety, envy, and the exhausting struggle to overcome or outdo others in the race for limited good. In the material world, competition appears logical because physical objects seem finite. If one person possesses a particular house, another cannot simultaneously occupy that identical dwelling. But abundance originates in the invisible realm of infinite possibility, where no such limitations exist. Love multiplies when shared rather than diminishes. Joy increases when expressed rather than decreases. Wisdom expands when given rather than contracts. Your prosperity operates according to these same spiritual principles rather than material laws of scarcity. Consider the profound example of a singer who desperately desired a coveted role already promised to another performer. She pushed, pleaded, and worried, creating tremendous resistance through her competitive consciousness and fear-based grasping. When I learned to align with divine law, she transformed her decree. My perfect self-expression now appears. The role that is mine by divine right seeks me and finds me now, under grace, in perfect ways. I bless the success of others, knowing there is no competition in spirit. Within days, the desired role was withdrawn from production, but a new opportunity appeared that seemed designed specifically for her unique talents. Music in her natural key, themes that resonated with her heart, and scheduling that allowed proper rest and preparation. What belonged to her by divine right could never be withheld, only revealed in better form than her limited human vision had conceived. Your individual abundance contributes to universal prosperity rather than diminishing it, creating a harmonious flow that blesses countless souls through the ripple effects of your prosperity. When you claim your divine right to unlimited supply, you become a radiating center of abundance that creates employment for any percent others, supports worthy causes, and demonstrates that spiritual laws operate reliably for anyone who applies them properly. Your success gives permission to others to claim their own divine inheritance and creates an expanding field of prosperity consciousness that elevates the entire collective awareness. This understanding dissolves any guilt about receiving abundance while others appear to lack, recognizing that your prosperity serves the highest good of all when motivated by love and expressed through generous circulation. Perfect supply exists right now in the invisible realm of infinite potential, responding instantly to your recognition and acceptance with mathematical precision. Think of this invisible supply like radio waves that constantly surround you, carrying countless stations of music, news, and information. The music exists continuously in the airwaves, an invisible supply of sound waiting to be received. The moment you tune your radio to the correct frequency, the P vials, music appears instantly in your experience. The radio does not create the music, it simply recognizes and accepts what already exists in invisible form. Your consciousness operates as that spiritual receiver, and when you tune it to the frequency of abundance through recognition and acceptance, your perfect supply appears with identical immediacy. This invisible supply consists not of fixed quantities of material goods but of pure, undifferentiated spiritual substance, capable of manifesting as any form your consciousness requires: money, opportunities, relationships, health, creative inspiration, or perfect timing. Like an inexhaustible ocean, it remains always full, always flowing, always ready to be drawn upon through your conscious recognition. Your physical senses perceive only what has already materialized from this invisible realm, but faith serves as your spiritual sense that perceives the unlimited substance standing ready to manifest as your next desire or need. The crucial distinction that transforms struggle into ease lies in understanding that you do not create your abundance, you recognize and accept it. Most souls exhaust themselves trying to manufacture prosperity through effort and worry, not realizing they are attempting to create what already exists in perfect form. You do not create the ocean when you draw water from it. You do not create the air when you breathe it into your lungs. Similarly, you do not create your perfect supply. You simply recognize its infinite presence and accept it as your divine inheritance. This recognition must penetrate beyond intellectual understanding to become a felt knowing, a deep inner certainty that transforms your entire vibrational frequency and magnetizes your good to you through irresistible spiritual law. Perfect supply operates through the principle of circulation, recognizing that abundance must flow freely to maintain its vitality and increase its manifestation. Like a river that becomes stagnant when dammed, your supply diminishes when hoarded through fear and multiplies when circulated with joy and gratitude. A man once clutched his modest savings with fearful intensity, telling the universe through his anxious handling that he dared not trust the invisible source. His money obeyed his consciousness. It remained static and gradually diminished through inflation and unexpected demands. When he learned to place his supply under divine jurisdiction, declaring, "You are divine substance in action, joyous money for joyous use, circulating freely and returning to me multiplied under grace," his entire experience transformed. He paid bills with gratitude, made purchases with joy, and gave generously from his heart. Each act of faithful circulation was met with increased flow, demonstrating that what you release under grace returns multiplied through channels your human mind could never arrange or anticipate. The law ensures that your supply appears in forms that serve your highest good, rather than merely fulfilling your immediate desires. Divine intelligence possesses perfect knowledge of what will truly bless you and often provides something better than your original request. A woman once prayed for a specific amount of money to clear her debts, but instead received an opportunity for additional income that not only eliminated her obligations but established ongoing prosperity. The universe had responded to her need for financial freedom rather than her limited request for a particular sum, demonstrating how perfect supply exceeds human expectations when you trust divine intelligence to choose the best methods, amounts, and timing. Recognizing supply at every stage of its manifestation accelerates its appearance in physical form. Supply manifests first as inspired ideas, then as inner guidance to take specific actions, then as opportunities and synchronistic meetings, and finally as tangible resources. Many souls delay their demonstrations by ignoring the earlier stages and demanding immediate material results. They receive a brilliant business idea, but dismiss it as impractical. They feel guided to contact someone, but resist the impulse as illogical. They encounter unexpected opportunities, but fail to recognize them as answers to their prayers. One who works consciously with this law learns to value an inspired concept as spiritual currency, to follow the lightest guidance that carries peace, and to recognize synchronistic meetings as dividends being paid by infinite intelligence. Divine timing operates as protection and preparation rather than delay or denial. When your good appears to be delayed, the law is actually arranging better circumstances, removing obstacles, or preparing you to handle greater abundance with wisdom and grace. A woman sought a new home and believed she must move immediately, but every door seemed to close despite her prayers and efforts. Rather than accusing the law of failure, she aligned with divine timing. My belief perfect home is now released to me, and I am guided to it at the perfect time, through the perfect channel, at the perfect price, under grace. Weeks later, a house not yet listed appeared through a casual conversation with a neighbor. The owner needed her exact move-in date, desired her specific terms, and included furnishings she had been pricing to purchase separately. The apparent delay had been divine intelligence, arranging the perfect match that served everyone involved. Your spoken word serves as the primary instrument for claiming your divine right and activating perfect supply. Begin each day by declaring your spiritual authority. I am now in my divine right place, doing my divine right work, for my divine right compensation, with my divine right people. All that is mine by divine right now comes to me under grace in perfect ways. Throughout the day, when appearances seem to contradict your declarations, maintain your spiritual position. Divine right order is established. Here, what is mine cannot be withheld, and what is not mine quickly releases me to my perfect good. These are not desperate pleas but royal decrees, recognizing your divine inheritance and commanding the law to demonstrate its reliability in your experience. Practice blessing what belongs to others as the swiftest method of attracting your own good. When you genuinely celebrate another's prosperity, you align yourself with abundance, consciousness, and demonstrate faith in the inexhaustible nature of divine supply. A businessman once envied a colleague's promotion and felt blocked from his own advancement. He learned to bless that colleague's success while claiming his own divine right. I rejoice in the good fortune of others, knowing there is no competition in spirit. What is mine by divine right cannot be taken from me, and what is not mine cannot truly bless me. My perfect position now appears. Within a month, a new department was created specifically around his unique strengths, with compensation exceeding the coveted promotion. He had been trying to squeeze into a position too small for his gifts, while the law prepared something perfectly tailored to his talents and aspirations. Remember that delay is not denial, and appearances are not truth. They are simply shadows cast by previous beliefs and declarations. The law operates continuously, whether you understand it or not, believe in it or not, or cooperate with it or not. Your current circumstances reflect your past and present consciousness regarding your divine right and perfect supply. As you align your thoughts, words, and expectations with the truth of unlimited abundance available to you now, your external experience must transform to match your internal recognition. Stand firm in your declarations as a lighthouse stands in a storm. knowing that the law cannot fail, and your good cannot be permanently withheld when you maintain consciousness aligned with your divine inheritance. The law of divine right and perfect supply stands ready to demonstrate its absolute reliability in your life the moment you cease arguing for limitation and begin claiming the abundant inheritance that has always been yours by divine decree. This inheritance awaits not your worthiness but your recognition, not your effort but your acceptance, not your struggle but your surrender to the truth that you are one with infinite supply and therefore heir to every good thing the universe contains. In that recognition, in that claiming, in that joyful acceptance, you activate forces that must respond to your spiritual authority and demonstrate through your experience that divine right and perfect supply represent not wishful thinking but immutable law, operating under grace in perfect ways to bless you abundantly and inspire others to claim their own magnificent inheritance from the inexhaustible storehouse of infinite good. The divine sentence achieves its miraculous power through your complete embodiment of the Quailo, most profound spiritual principle ever revealed to humanity, living from the end result, which means speaking, thinking, feeling, and acting as if your desired abundance has already been perfectly accomplished in the realm of spirit and is now expressing itself through your physical experience. This principle operates from the unshakable understanding that in the invisible dimension where all creation originates, your good exists right now in complete, perfect, finished form, waiting not to be created through human effort, but to be recognized, accepted, and allowed to manifest through your transformed consciousness into visible demonstration. Most souls approach their desires from the consciousness of lack, perpetually seeking what they believe they do not possess, inadvertently affirming separation from their good and creating resistance to its natural flow. They pray for future blessings, affirm what they will have someday, and labor anxiously to bring about conditions they perceive as absent from their current experience. This approach, though seemingly logical to the human mind, actually perpetuates the very state of limitation it seeks to overcome. By constantly affirming a future outcome, one unconsciously reinforces the present absence of that outcome, sending mixed signals to the universe that must respond to your actual consciousness rather than your secret hopes. But when you live from the end result, you align yourself with the fundamental truth that your abundance already exists as a spiritual fact in the timeless realm of infinite possibility. Your role transforms from desperate creator to grateful receiver, from anxious seeker to peaceful knower, from one who begs for mercy to one who claims divine inheritance with quiet authority. This shift in consciousness creates what can only be described as an immediate transformation in your vibrational frequency, and the universe, operating according to the immutable law of attraction, must respond by rearranging people, circumstances, and opportunities to match your new state of inner knowing. The consciousness shift from seeking to having represents a complete reversal of ordinary human thinking, which operates from the evidence of physical senses and current circumstances. The material mind insists that you can only feel prosperous after money appears in your bank account, only feel healthy after symptoms disappear from your body, only feel successful after achievements manifest in your career. But spiritual law operates in precisely the opposite direction. You must first embody the consciousness of having received before the physical demonstration can appear. Your outer world serves as a perfect mirror, reflecting your inner convictions with mathematical precision, and that mirror can only show you what you are already being within your consciousness. Consider the profound mechanics of this principle through the living example of a woman who desired to manifest financial abundance, but had been approaching this desire from consciousness of perpetual lack. She would examine her bank balance with anxious frequency, worry about upcoming bills with consuming intensity, and speak constantly of not having enough money to meet her needs. Her prayers were always future-focused. "Please bring me money," or "I hope my financial situation improves soon." She was unconsciously commanding the universe to keep her good perpetually in the future through her consciousness of present absence. The law responded faithfully to her actual vibration of lack, maintaining her in experiences that confirmed her fearful beliefs about scarcity and limitation. When she learned to live from the end result, her entire approach underwent complete transformation. She began declaring with conviction, "I am now richly and abundantly supplied. Divine prosperity flows through me continuously, and all my needs are met with joyful ease under grace." But more importantly, she began to feel ease, the emotions that would naturally accompany financial freedom, relief, gratitude, peace, and generous joy. She started treating her current money with blessing and appreciation rather than anxious counting. She prepared her financial systems as someone expecting increased flow, organizing her accounts and creating space for abundance to manifest. She spoke of money as a happy messenger rather than a scarce commodity, and began making decisions from prosperity consciousness rather than scarcity consciousness. This shift in her inner state created an immediate change in her magnetic attraction, and the universe responded with remarkable swiftness. Unexpected income appeared through channels she had never considered. Old debts were forgiven, forgotten investments matured, and new opportunities for increased earnings materialized through synchronistic meetings and conversations. Her outer experience transformed to match her inner knowing because she had stopped trying to create abundance and began accepting what already existed for her in the realm of infinite supply. The principle operates through the fundamental law of assumption, which states that whatever you assume to be true about yourself becomes your experience through the automatic response of universal intelligence. Your assumptions create your reality more powerfully than your conscious desires, hopes, or efforts, because assumptions operate at the subconscious level where your creative power actually resides. If you assume yourself to be limited, struggling, or unworthy of abundance, the universe has no choice but to provide experiences that confirm these assumptions with unwavering consistency. But when you assume yourself to be prosperous, blessed, and naturally abundant, the law must demonstrate these assumptions through your circumstances with identical reliability. The secret lies in cultivating the feeling of your wish fulfilled, for feeling represents the creative force that gives substance to your thoughts and commands the universe to respond to your inner state. Your emotions serve as the vibrational signature that universal intelligence recognizes and responds to with mathematical precision. When you feel genuinely grateful for abundance you have not yet seen, genuinely peaceful about solutions not yet appeared, genuinely excited about opportunities not yet manifested, you create the emotional atmosphere that magnetizes these experiences into your physical world through the irresistible operation of spiritual law. This feeling must be cultivated not as pretense or positive thinking, but as recognition of spiritual truth that transcends material appearances. You are not pretending that bills do not exist when you have not yet received money to pay them. You are recognizing that your perfect supply exists in spirit and is now manifesting through divine channels to meet every need abundantly. You are not denying symptoms while affirming perfect health. You are acknowledging that divine life flows through every cell of your being and is now expressing as complete wholeness and vitality. Acting from the end result requires making decisions and taking actions that align with your desired outcome rather than your current circumstances. If you desire prosperity, begin making choices that a prosperous person would make, not reckless spending that creates debt, but generous giving that demonstrates faith in unlimited supply, quality purchases that honor your worth, and financial decisions that reflect confidence in continued abundance. Prepare your physical space and daily routine to accommodate the good you have claimed. If you have declared for increased income, organize your financial systems as someone expecting greater flow. If you have affirmed perfect health, begin living as a healthy person lives, choosing foods that nourish vitality, engaging in activities that build strength, speaking words that affirm well-being. These actions performed from confident expectation rather than desperate hope, send clear signals to both your subconscious mind and to universal intelligence that you genuinely believe your good is manifesting and you are ready to receive it. It represents the spiritual equivalent of preparing your home for a long-awaited guest, knowing with certainty they are about to arrive. A businessman once struggled with declining sales while assuming that economic conditions and increased competition naturally limited his success. When he learned to live from the end result, he began assuming that prosperity flowed to him easily, that customers sought him out because he provided exactly what they needed, and that all changes created new opportunities for his expansion. These new assumptions, held with consistency and conviction, created complete transformation in his business experience as circumstances rearranged themselves to match his elevated consciousness. Your spoken word becomes the primary vehicle for establishing way and maintaining this consciousness of fulfillment. Your affirmations must reflect present reality rather than future hope. Instead of saying, "I will be prosperous someday," declare with authority, "I am now richly and abundantly supplied." Rather than pleading, "Please help me find my right work," state with conviction, "I am grateful for my perfect work that expresses my highest talents and provides abundant compensation." Your words, when saturated with inner knowing, become magnetic decrees that command the invisible to become visible by acknowledging its present truth in the realm of spirit. Gratitude serves as the native tongue of the fulfilled state, lifting your consciousness above the fog of human reasoning into the clear atmosphere where divine order can be perceived and followed. Give thanks before evidence appears, and evidence hastens to meet your gratitude with remarkable speed. Say with genuine feeling, "I am so grateful for my perfect supply, for the harmonious presented unfolding of this matter, for doors that open of their own accord." A shopkeeper who learned this principle began blessing her merchandise as sold to the right person, blessing her cash register as ever full, ever refilled, and greeting each customer as a divine appointment. She acted consistently as one whose business was already successful, and the atmosphere transformed along with her financial results. The practice requires releasing all attachment to outlining the specific methods through which your good will appear. The finite mind, with its limited understanding of channels and possibilities, cannot possibly conceive the infinite ways universal intelligence can arrange your demonstration. When you live from the end result, you trust divine wisdom to orchestrate perfect timing, move the right people into position, open the precise doors of opportunity, and manifest your good through channels your human reasoning could never imagine or arrange. Any attempt to dictate the dictate how creates resistance and limits the boundless creativity of infinite intelligence. Living from the end result transforms your relationship with time itself, for in the realm of spirit where your good originates, time does not exist as a limiting factor. Past, present, and future merge into an eternal now, where everything exists simultaneously in perfect completion. When you align with this timeless dimension through your consciousness, you step out of the linear progression of cause and effect and into the immediate availability of infinite possibility. Your good does not require time to develop, it requires only your recognition and acceptance to manifest from the invisible into the visible realm with the swiftness of answered prayer. This consciousness must be maintained with absolute consistency, for mixed signals create confused demonstrations. You cannot live from abundance consciousness in the morning and slip into lack consciousness in the afternoon without creating conflicting vibrations that delay or distort your manifestations. Every thought, word, feeling, and action must align with the truth that your good is already accomplished in spirit and is now expressing perfectly through your experience. This consistency develops through vigilant attention to your inner state, immediately correcting any deviation from the consciousness of fulfillment. There will be tests of appearance when maintaining this consciousness. The fulfilled state must sometimes pass through corridors that do not resemble the destination, and bridges of incidents, some curious, some perplexing, may appear. Living from the end result keeps you from cursing the bridge that is carrying you to your good. A delay may represent protection from lesser good. A refusal may indicate redirection toward something better. A closed door may bear invisible writing that reads, "Too small for your gifts." When you feel tempted to panic or doubt, pause and return to your inner picture of fulfillment. Ask yourself, if I had already received my good, how would I walk through this moment? Then move forward from that consciousness of completion. The feeling of relief serves as a powerful indicator that you have successfully shifted into end result consciousness. When you have truly cast your burden upon the Christ within and genuinely accepted that your good is accomplished, a profound sense of peace and relief washes through your entire being. This relief springs not from resignation, but from absolute trust and inner certainty. It represents the quiet knowing that all is well, and all is being perfectly arranged by infinite intelligence. In that moment of release, you have stepped out of the way and allowed divine solutions to flow freely through your experience. Remember that living from the end result represents not a technique to be applied sporadically, but a state of being to be cultivated continuously. It constitutes the spiritual science of recognizing that all creation is finished in the realm of infinite possibility, and your task involves simply choosing which segment of that finished creation you wish to experience through your consciousness. By consistently holding the awareness of already having received, by speaking words of present manifestation, by feeling the emotions of fulfillment, and by acting from confident expectation, you become a master of spiritual law rather than a victim of circumstances. Your outer world must then conform, instantly and perfectly, to your inner knowing of already accomplished abundance. The universe operates as a faithful mirror, reflecting back to you with unwavering accuracy the image you project from within through your dominant thoughts, feelings, and assumptions. When that inner image consistently reflects completion, gratitude, and joyful possession of your heart's desires, the mirror of experience must show you the physical equivalent of that spiritual reality. In this alignment with divine truth, in this consistency of consciousness, in this unwavering recognition of what is already eternally yours in spirit, you activate the divine sentence that shifts you into abundance instantly, not by creating something new, but by accepting with grateful recognition what has always been perfectly prepared for you in the inexhaustible storehouse of infinite good, now manifesting under grace in perfect ways through the magnificent operation of immutable spiritual law. The profound efficacy of the divine sentence, and indeed of all spiritual law, rests ultimately upon the unshakable foundation of unwavering faith, a faith that perceives beyond the deceptive veil of material appearances and steadfastly affirms the invisible truth of accomplished good. This represents not the hesitant hope of human desire, nor the fleeting optimism that rises and falls with external circumstances, but rather the absolute knowing, the inner conviction so deep it becomes cellular, that what has been declared in the spiritual realm exists as perfect reality right now, hastening to manifest in the physical world, regardless of what the outer senses may currently report. Most souls falter at this crucial juncture, allowing the seemingly convincing evidence of their physical senses to undermine the power of their spoken word and dissolve the certainty of their spiritual convictions. They speak their divine sentence with authority, cast their burden with genuine release, live from the consciousness of the end result with sincere feeling, yet permit the stubborn appearance of delay, lack, or difficulty to cause their faith to waver like a candle flame in shifting wind. In that moment of doubt, they inadvertently cancel their powerful decrees and return to the consciousness of limitation that created their original circumstances. Appearances, beloved souls, are nothing more than shadows cast by previous thoughts and beliefs, ephemeral illusions that possess no inherent power to persist, unless continuously fed through fearful attention, anxious worry, and doubtful speculation. They are not the truth of your being, nor do they represent the ultimate reality of your situation. These appearances are like photographs of yesterday's weather, accurate records of past conditions, but utterly powerless to dictate tomorrow's climate. The universe operates from a dimension of perfect order and limitless supply, where every good thing exists as an eternal, unchangeable fact. When your human consciousness becomes hypnotized by the current appearance of lack or limitation, you are essentially staring at a reflection in a funhouse mirror and mistaking the distortion for absolute truth. This misperception becomes the greatest obstacle to demonstration, for universal law responds to your dominant conviction, not to your secret wishes or desperate prayers. The law reads your consciousness like a perfectly calibrated instrument, responding with mathematical precision to the vibration you consistently emit through your thoughts, feelings, and spoken words. When that vibration wavers between faith and doubt, between knowing and questioning, the universe receives mixed signals and must deliver mixed results, partial demonstrations, delayed manifestations, or experiences that seem to mock your efforts. Therefore, the supreme spiritual art involves cultivating and maintaining unwavering faith that sees through every appearance directly to the spiritual truth that lies beneath. This requires conscious effort and persistent spiritual vigilance, for the human mind exists in a constant storm of suggestions from the outer world, each one whispering its tale of limitation, scarcity, and impossibility. But when you arm yourself with understanding of divine law, you recognize these suggestions as powerless phantoms that cannot affect your good unless you grant them the permission of your mental consent. Your faith becomes the spiritual lens through which you perceive the reality of your completed good, even when the outer picture seems to contradict it entirely. Like a skilled photographer who sees the magnificent landscape despite temporary fog, you learn to look past the mist of appearances to the eternal sunshine of spiritual truth. This vision transforms not only your inner experience, but commands the outer world to conform to your elevated perspective through the irresistible operation of spiritual law. The practical application of this principle manifests through the sacred art of blessing appearances, consciously transforming what seems negative into its highest spiritual truth. To bless an appearance means to acknowledge the underlying divine order and perfect good that exists beneath the surface of any seeming discord or limitation. This represents not denial of current conditions, but recognition of the greater reality that governs all conditions. When you bless a bill, you acknowledge not only the service received but affirm the inexhaustible supply that meets every obligation joyfully and abundantly. When you bless a difficult person, you see past their human personality to the divine self within them, calling forth their highest nature through your recognition. When you bless a challenging situation, you affirm the divine solution that is already working itself out under grace in perfect ways. Consider the transformative power of this principle through a living example. A woman discovered herself facing a legal challenge that threatened to consume both her peace and her resources. The appearance presented itself as injustice, conflict, and potential devastating loss. Her initial human reaction followed predictable patterns. Fear gripped her chest, anger burned in her thoughts, and she prepared to fight the situation using worldly weapons of argument and resistance. But then she remembered the power of unwavering faith and the alchemy of blessing appearances. Instead of rehearsing the negative aspects of piling her case in endless mental loops, she began speaking differently to the situation. I bless this appearance of discord and affirm that divine justice now prevails in every detail. Only divine order can manifest here, for there is no other power. I bless all souls involved in this matter, knowing that the Christ within each is now guiding them to the highest good for everyone concerned. She refused to discuss the problem with friends or family, choosing instead to hold fast to the inner vision of peaceful and harmonious resolution. Each time fear attempted to reassert its familiar dominion, she immediately returned to her divine sentence, casting the burden of the legal matter upon the infinite intelligence within, knowing with absolute certainty that this wisdom was perfectly orchestrating every detail according to divine law. The appearance of conflict began dissolving as if touched by invisible grace. The opposing counsel became surprisingly cooperative, abandoning their previous hostile stance. Unexpected evidence emerged through channels no human mind could have arranged. Witnesses appeared who had been thought unreachable. The entire situation resolved itself in a manner that brought not only peace but unexpected advantage, demonstrating conclusively that blessing had transmuted the appearance into its highest spiritual expression. This process of blessing appearances represents not passive denial, but active, conscious affirmation of spiritual law in operation. Each blessing becomes a declaration of your absolute belief in the infinite goodness and perfect order that governs all creation. It demonstrates your refusal to be swayed by the transient nature of material conditions and your steadfast commitment to the eternal truth of your divine inheritance. Every time you bless an appearance, you send a powerful vibrational signal throughout the universe, instructing all forces to align with your inner conviction of good rather than your outer observation of limitation. The discipline also requires deep understanding that delay never equals denial. Often, after speaking your word and claiming your good with genuine conviction, there appears to be a period of waiting, a time when the outer world seems unchanged or perhaps even more challenging than before. This represents the crucial test that separates spiritual masters from spiritual beginners. Many abandon their declarations at this critical juncture, concluding that the law has failed them or that their particular desire exceeds divine willingness to bless them. But the spiritual realm operates with perfect timing and divine orchestration, often arranging what appears to be a series of unrelated incidents that serve as stepping stones between your current experience and your desired demonstration. These incidents may seem entirely disconnected from your stated goal, yet each serves a necessary purpose in the manifestation process, clearing obstacles, preparing hearts, arranging circumstances, and bringing forth your good in the most perfect and harmonious manner possible. A young artist struggled for recognition while repeatedly declaring his divine right to creative expression and abundant compensation. For months, his work remained unseen, and his finances grew increasingly strained. The appearance suggested failure and futility. Temptation to abandon his spiritual practice grew stronger each day, but he maintained unwavering faith, continually blessing the appearance of lack while affirming his already accomplished success in the realm of spirit. During this apparent delay, divine intelligence was orchestrating a series of seemingly unrelated events. A chance encounter at a coffee shop led to conversation with a stranger who mentioned needing artwork for a new cafe. This small commission led to a newspaper feature about local artists. The article caught the attention of a gallery owner who had been seeking fresh talent. The gallery exhibition brought his work to the notice of a collector who commissioned a major piece. Each step appeared accidental to human observation, yet followed perfect divine logic in creating the precise sequence that launched his career beyond his original dreams. The refusal to outline specific methods represents another vital component of unwavering faith. When you declare your good, the human mind immediately attempts to impose its limited understanding upon infinite intelligence, dictating the precise channels, methods, and timing through which your blessing should appear. This mental outlining creates subtle resistance and demonstrates lack of faith in the unlimited creativity of universal source. Unwavering faith trusts completely that the how belongs entirely to divine intelligence, which possesses access to countless channels and perfect timing that your finite understanding cannot possibly conceive. When you bless appearances while releasing all human outlining, you give divine intelligence complete permission to manifest your good through the most surprising, swift, and perfect methods, often exceeding your highest expectations by delivering something far better than your original request. This requires the spiritual maturity to say, "This or something better now manifests, under grace," and mean it with complete sincerity. Maintaining this elevated state of consciousness requires constant vigilance over your thoughts and words. When negative appearances arise, immediately intercept your automatic reaction before it can gain momentum through fearful attention. Instead, consciously bless the situation while affirming the underlying divine truth. I bless this appearance of challenge and affirm that divine order is establishing itself here now. I have unwavering faith that my good is already accomplished in spirit, and this appearance is rapidly dissolving into its perfect manifestation under grace. Speak with quiet authority, knowing that your word, supported by unwavering faith, operates as irresistible creative force that cannot fail to produce perfect results. This spiritual discipline gradually transforms your entire consciousness, elevating you from victim of circumstances to master of spiritual law. The appearances that once seemed so formidable lose their power to intimidate, for you recognize them as temporary illusions that must eventually yield to the truth of your spoken word and the power of your unshakable conviction. Your faith becomes so profound that the outer world has no choice but to conform to your inner knowing. What once appeared as obstacles transform into opportunities. What seemed like delays reveal themselves as divine protection from inferior outcomes. What looked like problems become doorways to greater good than you had originally envisioned. This unwavering faith serves as the golden thread that weaves through and strengthens all the other keynotes. Without it, the creative power of your spoken word becomes mere positive thinking. Without it, consciousness transformation remains temporary and unstable. Without it, casting the burden becomes an intellectual exercise rather than genuine release. Without it, divine right and perfect supply remain theoretical concepts rather than living realities. Without it, living from the end result becomes pretense rather than authentic spiritual knowing. But with unwavering faith as your foundation, each keynote operates with maximum power and precision. Your words carry the authority of absolute conviction. Your consciousness remains stable in the truth of abundance, regardless of appearances. Your burden casting becomes complete and permanent. Your recognition of divine right transforms into unshakable knowing. Your end result living becomes natural expression of spiritual certainty rather than hopeful acting. Ultimately, unwavering faith transmutes appearances because it aligns you perfectly with the highest spiritual truth. There exists only one power in the waiting process, universe, and that power operates always and only for good. There exists nothing to fear, nothing to doubt, and nothing to resist when you recognize your inseparable unity with this infinite, benevolent source. The appearances of lack, limitation, or discord become merely temporary distortions in the mirror of experience, waiting for your unwavering faith to polish the glass and reveal the perfect, abundant truth that has always existed beneath every surface condition. Through this faith, steadfast, uncompromising, and radiant with inner knowing, the divine sentence finds its ultimate power, transforming every shadow into light, every problem into blessing, and every seeming limitation into immediate and overflowing manifestation of your divine inheritance, accomplished under grace in ways more perfect than human wisdom could devise or human effort could achieve.